So welcome everyone to this meeting of the Richmond Planning Commission for the date is the 18th of March, 2026. I think it looks like we have a couple of guests. Welcome John, Lynn, and Trevor. They would be our guests, and Tom if he has any comments he wishes to make. Okay, so we're going to start by just checking over the agenda and making sure that this is the agenda that we would like to have. Here we go. So the agenda basically has one item on it, which is to look at the draft, the first early draft of the stormwater erosion regulations. We've already had some comments about it. And also we're going to start looking at the spin-off sections of our zoning that are going to be affected. One of them is the site plan review. If we're going to have things that we want to include about stormwater and erosion control, we need to have them up front with the site plan. So we're going to talk about that. In my memo, the other thing that I didn't say was that we will also have to talk about the subdivision regs because they will have to align with this. And also there are places throughout the zoning regulations that are going to have to be adjusted for the language that we use in the stormwater section. So probably when it comes to getting public hearings on this question, it will be the whole document pretty much. Several places mostly impacted, but then a lot of little changes are going to have to happen here and there. So that's the plan. Anyone would like to do anything else other than that with the agenda?
No, sounds good.
Okay, not hearing any negatives, we will continue with the posted agenda. And are there any comments on anything else besides what's on the agenda? Any public comment on anything else?
Oh, excuse me.
Okay, not hearing any of that, we will go to our next item on the agenda, which is to review the minutes of our March 4th meeting. Does anyone have any additions or corrections or changes that they wish to make to those minutes?
Nope.
They're in draft form. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands or corrections suggested, so we will accept those minutes into the record as written. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 4 on our agenda, which is to discuss the early draft of the stormwater prevention, erosion prevention section. And then we're going to talk about how it relates to the site plan. Okay, so if we want to pull up the...
You want to go with the meeting memo first? Or?
Sure, we can go with the meeting memo and just review that. I sort of already reviewed it.
Well, you wrote it. Okay, yeah.
I wrote it, I reviewed it, you know, it looks okay to me. I'm okay with it as written. But anyway, so the first paragraph really talks about the fact that as I was working on this, it became clear to me how much that this was a change. It's a change in the way things are going to be, the language, how things are going to be thought about, how they're going to have to be planned for. It's going to impact, pretty much anyone who disturbs land to do construction. And we need to be planning for how the heavier rainfall that we're going to have with climate change, the more intense storms, how that is all going to be dealt with. We do have somewhat of a stormwater management system, and Keith is going to talk in a little while about his meeting with Pete, who is the one who understands the current stormwater management system. But it's not as complete a system as some of the bigger towns have. So more may be required of developers to not allow this partial system to become overburdened. So anyway, so that was one thought I had, was how much we're going to really have to talk about this with people to get buy-in to what we're doing and to explain why it is that we need to do this. Why do we need to have this additional level of regulation? You know, to us, it may seem obvious, but it's not necessarily obvious. The state regulates it on a larger scale. We are finding that it actually is a problem on a smaller scale. So our regulation is mostly addressing that smaller scale, although it will continue into the larger scale, the same kinds of regulations. Most other towns have stormwater regulation in their zoning. So, and then the second thing that I found was, as I worked on this, was that the site plan review section, the way it is set up now, is not really amenable to having stormwater plans made at the beginning of an application. So that was when we started to work on the site plan section. And so we can go into that a little bit later on. So anyway, I don't know if anyone has any thoughts about this. These drafts are definitely early. We're looking at other towns. We're looking at what we've got here in Richmond. So whatever anyone comes up with should be brought up and discussed. The regulations have lots of different kinds of ways of addressing this, but we want to try to walk the line between making it overburdensome but making it complete, so that we don't actually run into a problem with a lot of runoff going from one yard to the next, or running into the street, creating more flooding, stream bank erosion, those kinds of things. So anybody have any questions or comments about that? All right, so let's go on to look at the document, this initial draft of the stormwater and erosion control. Okay, so Keith has already made it simpler, the title. We can get this EPSC in there somewhere, but the suggestion has been to just call it stormwater as the first word and erosion control. That's kind of simpler. So I'm good with that, changing it to stormwater and erosion control. And so we understand that these are two separate things. We go down to, and where we're putting it right now in the zoning regulation is in our section 6. This is called special zoning regulations, and it's like a catch-all where we put every new thing that we need to think about in for the moment. When we do our full reorganization of the zoning, it may be organized a little bit differently, but for right now, it's a special regulation, so it's fine. It can go in section 6, and we're up to section 6.16. So, and we have a purpose and an applicability, which is what most regulations have. They start off with a purpose, and I put a little bit of educational work in here.
Nice.
You know, it's to address the growing problem of increased rainfall combined with the higher density of housing. Before we had more dense housing, we had more open surface land that the water could absorb into. So we have been required to have more density of housing, and we understand that that's, you know, it should be in the already dense areas of town where the infrastructure is. That's an efficient way of developing. So there will be more dense building in the denser areas. So there will be less open ground. So we're going to have more systems that are going to address that. In the outlying areas, we have the stream erosion problem. So that's kind of a different problem. And this is why we have two goals in this section. So there's the one that's the erosion prevention and sediment control, and then there's the other one, which is the stormwater management. And erosion prevention and not having the water carry sediment is a water quality issue for the most part. And that is, you will find as we go on further into this document, mostly associated with the actual construction of a project, the disturbance of the land that allows sediment to be carried off and needs to be prevented. Then the second goal is the stormwater management. That is the post-construction phase, and that is when, after the disturbed land has been stabilized and the disturbance has been, remedied, then we need to have the systems that are going to be maintained for long-term management of precipitation. So this is, these are two slightly separate goals. And I broke them out into the two sections just to make it clear once again: short-term prevention of runoff, long-term management of stormwater. Okay, so we get down to the applicability, and we are saying all development in all districts which involve one-time or phased construction projects that disturb between 200 square feet and 1 acre of land. This is small-scale development. Where the 1 acre comes from is the fact that 1 acre or greater needs to have a state stormwater discharge permit. So where the 200 square feet comes from, I don't really know. I think
it's a placeholder, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that is a number that is, some regulations say 1/4 of an acre.
Right.
Which is about 10,000 square feet. We feel, Keith and I so far have felt that we need to capture the small projects. I mean, we have lots now that are 1/5 of an acre to match Act 47 and 181. That's pretty small, and that can cause some damage. If you cover it with impervious surfaces, then you're going to need some stormwater management. So 200 square feet is like a shed or whatever, 10 by 20. Can you have a garage that's 200 square feet? I don't know. But it would be a small
garage.
Yeah, a small project. So that number is one that people can think about. Do we want it to go down to that level? So seems to us so far to be useful. So then projects which involve greater than 1 acre of total land disturbance must also meet our requirements, but they also have to have a state stormwater discharge permit. And Keith and I talked at great length about when that permit is needed for. We can talk about that in a bit. And they need to have a professionally prepared plan. So below the 1 acre, we are not suggesting, as you will see in a minute, an engineered plan. The applicant can do the plan. After that, if you need a state stormwater discharge permit, then you have to have it professionally prepared by a landscape architect or engineer or whatever. And then there's the projects that create 3 acres or more of impervious surfaces are going to have to adhere to the state's 3 acre stormwater rule that we're not going to talk about very much here in our document. So those projects are under our municipal documentation as well, but they also have to have a lot of state input. So, and what we want to say is that when you apply for a municipal zoning permit, you are going to have to address all of these things up front. So this is a big change, I think, for most people in thinking about it. Well, I'm going to have to address the whole construction phase and the whole post-construction phase. But that is the only way that you're going to be able to get those things in place as you're doing the construction, is to have a plan for them right at the beginning. Okay, so then we come down to the next section, 6.16.3, which talks about the stages in the project. The pre-construction stage, which is the planning stage, which turns out to be really important to line these things up, what you're going to do. The construction phase, which is the erosion prevention part of it. And then the post-construction phase, which is the stormwater management. That's more of a long-term thing. So any questions so far? Or this kind of lays out the way this section is going to be discussed. We're going to talk about each one of these stages and what is required for it and what the standards are for it and where to get the guidelines and so forth. So does anyone have any thoughts about if they would like to organize it differently, or if this works as an organizational thing? Does it seem clear? I'm trying to approach it from an applicant's point of view. You know, if you want to apply, you're going to have a building project. What do you need to do, and when do you need to do it? But I'm open to suggestions about some other way that you might want to do it.
I think this sort of general setup is fine, you know, pre-construction and construction, post-construction. I think it'll make it easier to clarify, like, at what stage what's needed, so that it's like sort of clear, laid out steps, 1, 2, and 3 for people. I think that will make this a lot easier to understand and digest for folks. I think so far the only other comment on what you've been talking about is the applicability for when we're going to require a engineered EPSC plan. So I think that's what it says for 1 acre. Are we talking? So the applicability. So just so I'm clear, this 6.16.2 is meant to then apply to it. That will apply to all 3 stages. Yes, this is like sort of the overarching governing applicability. Mm-hmm. Then I think we need to, I mean, obviously, like you said, this is early, but I think we'll want to sort of tweak it, because land disturbance versus the post-construction part that you're talking about is more like geared towards what's the final impervious that we're left with, right?
How are you managing that? Yes.
And so, like, just 1 acre of land disturbance, somebody could potentially disturb an acre of land and then, I mean, it seems unlikely, but have like very little final impervious. You know, if they want to clear a huge acre lot in the forest, like create themselves an acre lot, and then maybe all they put on it is a shed. Like, I don't know. Because they're planning for future development. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows what people are going to do, but requiring only those plans for, I think we need to like have thresholds for the phase 2, what you're calling what you're calling construction, Virginia. And then also sort of some guidelines for the post-construction, like sort of almost like 2 separate sets of when do we require certain things, like, for example, like the engineered plans.
Right. Well, I think that you might find that comes up in each section as it is discussed, but I think
as we go along.
As we go along. I mean, the applicability is to all development and all construction. So even if you're only going to clear the land and you're not going to build anything on it, if you're disturbing it, then you will have to have a stormwater management section. It might not consist of very much, for instance. But anyway, you will still have to indicate that what your plan is. So anyway, see if it meets your needs as we go through it.
Yeah, I'll wait to jump in further. Yeah. I'll wait to see if these other things I have in my head come up as we go along.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So any other comments? All right. So we'll move on. We've gone and done the project stages. So And then in that applicability section, no, in the project stages section,
Yes.
I have also mentioned the requirements, standards, and guidelines for each stage are covered in these next 3 sections. Each one has a section, and that there are 2 basic texts that will be used. This is just to give the applicants up front sort of a heads up about what we're talking about. The Low Risk Site Handbook, the Vermont Low Impact Development Guide for residential and small sites. So these are, directed towards the smaller projects. And then these additional references that Christy Witter suggested, because she is involved with stormwater permit management, and we will be talking to her at length probably at some point. These are other possible references. So we can put in here anything that we think is going to be useful to people without being too much. Okay, so we go on past that, and we come to the actual meat of the section, which is these 3 sections, point 4, point 5, and point 6. Point 4, pre-construction requirements, standards, and guidelines. So, and what I've tried to do is to separate out what you're actually required to do. And in the pre-construction phase, well, you'll see what you're actually required to do, and then what standards you're going to be held up to for these items. And then there are guidelines which are not either requirements or standards, but they're things that you are going to, this is information you're going to need to garner for yourself to help you meet the standards. So, for all proposed construction sites, plans must be made to control all sources of sedimentation and erosion during construction and to protect the existing natural site features that will aid in stormwater management for the completed project. So in your planning phase, you're really planning for both of these problems. So protecting the existing natural site vegetation that you want. For instance, trees really help to absorb water. They suck it up out of the ground. So we are going to ask you to show on your site plan, where if you're going to use that for stormwater at the end of your project, where you're going to, where these are going to be. So, and this is the low risk handbook, and for the erosion part, and the low impact development guide, that's for the stormwater. So here are the requirements. This is what you have to know. You have to provide a minor or major site plan as described in section 5.5. This is why we had to overhaul the site plan section, because we had nothing that showed the difference between a minor or a major site plan. And the main difference is the minor one is one that the applicant can make. It can be a drawing, it can be hand done, it has to be approximately correct. This is all described in the site plan section. So that's for the smaller projects that we do not want to require that you have a professional create your plan for. That's going to be the minor one. And then there's a list of all the things that you have to have on this plan to comply with either a minor or the major site plan is one that has to be reviewed by the DRB. So if it's a conditional use or a PUD or a subdivision review, you're going to have a major site plan. And that is going to have to involve a few other extra things, and it has to be professionally produced. So that's going to become more clear when we talk about the site plan section. But we've allowed for 2 different classifications, an easier one and a harder one.
And I think one way to generally look at it is that a minor is something that would be handled administratively, and a major is something that the DRB reviews. I think that's kind of the way generally that would work.
So like a single family home is going to require a minor plan. It is not going to require one that is engineered.
Unless they're disturbing an acre of land.
Unless, yes, unless you're disturbing an acre of land. So,
Well, or unless their disturbance is proposed on slopes over 20%, because that's already incorporated
That's
into
true.
zoning.
Yeah,
right.
correct.
There's some other qualities that would require that you would have it be major. But this is
Where,
what we're trying to do to allow it not to be super overburdening for every little project.
Right.
So that's the first thing that you're going to do is you have to make a site plan, one or the other of these. The second thing is you have to contact the Agency of Natural Resources through the Permit Navigator tool to locate the natural resource information, which we are going to tell you about, that is going to be required, and to seek state permitting if needed. So in other words, if it's an acre or more, you're going to have the state permit. So, and there may be wetlands. You may have to, be getting a wetlands permit. So that's the second thing you have to do on your actual requirements list for the planning phase. You're going to have to locate the underground utilities with DigSafe. You're going to have to examine the deed of the parcel to establish the boundaries and to get other information off it, like easements and so forth. And you're going to have to provide the construction site personnel with a copy of the plan. So, it's no good having this plan if it sits in the planning office.
Right.
So it's got to go to the people out there who are going to do the work. So those are all the actual requirements for the planning phase. Ian,
is there anything about like the length of a driveway into a piece of property?
Not yet.
well, no, and
Why do you ask?
yeah.
I've just been hearing about all this stuff with Act 181 and
The
people
road rule.
losing their minds about that. So it kind of just was in the back of my head. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The driveway add to the developable area or the developed area in the determination of
Of an acre.
soil?
Well, it would be an impervious surface if you're making a driveway. It's going to be an impervious surface. So when you see what the standards are for this plan, it will talk about the amount of impervious surface.
Okay. Sorry, I got
The
it.
road rule about the driveway, that's going to be an Act 250 thing.
Yeah.
Particular
Sure.
thing, and which they're still debating, and they're postponing it further and further back because there's a lot of discussion about it and people are concerned about it. So that, if you have a driveway of a certain length, then you're going to need an Act 250 permit if that goes through. If the road
Right.
rule becomes established, then you will need an Act 250 permit. And hopefully, when you contact the Agency of Natural Resources through Permit Navigator, it's going to tell you you need an Act 250 permit or not.
Right.
So that's where that comes in.
That's the hope.
Yeah. So anyway, so these are the things that you actually have to do. These are the requirements. Now, here are the standards that we're going to require that you adhere to with your plan. You minimize the land disturbance. And, people are going to have to explain why it is that they're doing something in the planning phase. If you say, I'm going to put a small house on and I'm going to clear the whole lot, this does not abide by the standard of minimizing the land disturbance. So you will have to explain why it is necessary to clear the whole lot.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Doesn't mean you
instance.
can't.
It doesn't mean you can. It says development of a lot or site shall require the least amount of vegetation clearing. So if you have a good reason for doing it, presumably you will be able to explain it.
Does like wanting to have a view, is that a good enough reason?
Could be.
Yeah, why not?
Well,
And who decides whether that's a good reason or not?
Yeah, that'd be the zoning administrator, I guess.
The zoning administrator
Mark, I'm
or
getting
the
ahead of you.
DRB, whoever is reviewing the plan. I
Right.
mean, we're leaving some things up to the DRB because, I mean, how could we make a regulation that says you can only clear this much area? You know what I mean? I mean,
Well,
that's
the way,
We
yeah, I mean,
shouldn't
the
be.
way you would govern that, and I'm sorry, Mark, to step on you, but the way you would govern that would state, minimal amount of clearing up to 10,000 square feet. Over 10,000 square feet, you are required to have a erosion and sedimentation control plan developed by an engineer. It's those triggers that we're looking at.
okay, Mark.
So I'm all for saying, hey, you want to if you're gonna go up to a a trigger, like you're referencing Keith,
Mhm.
10,000 square feet, whatever that is.
Right.
But for us to put into our standards that you have to minimize land disturbance, what right do we have to say that? Where do we get off dictating? Oh, well, theoretically, you're only making a whatever 2,000 square foot plot of house, so you can't cut down trees more than 30 feet away or whatever. I mean, what's where are we coming up with throwing that language in there? Yeah, we may not like it, but honestly, if somebody wants to clear their entire freaking lot, they can do that and then only build on a small portion of it. And what right do we have? As long as they're not impacting stormwater runoff that's going to affect the public.
Well, I think that's the point of me saying the triggers at a certain level of disturbance will require a professional plan. So it minimizes those runoffs. You have an acre of land. We have no idea if there's 20% slopes. And as you know, every parcel is, based on its own merits.
Right. And
So
I'm
yeah.
thinking that somebody I'm trying to that's a good example for everybody. Uh the farm.
Mhm.
They got all that land on the back, up the hill, whatever. Let's pretend that was flat and filled with trees. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have an
Or
I'm
imagination.
trying to
Sure.
think of a big plot of land around that's flat and full of trees right now. And we're gonna come in and say, as long as it doesn't exceed thresholds for the timber harvesting cutoffs and state grants, what right do we have to say how much they can do to their piece of land, as long as we're ensuring that they want to build a shed, they want to clear an acre of land around it, but they've got 100-acre parcel and it's in the middle, and there's going to be no stormwater runoff to public property or public streams. Where are we getting off telling them, oh, you have to minimize your impact when you build your shed?
because this is a basic premise of managing water.
No,
Is
it isn't. No, it isn't.
yes, it is. If
Oh,
you
yes,
want,
you're true. But the point is what you're doing is you're managing people's decisions with their own private property, and you don't have a right to do that. The town
But that's what zoning is. I mean, I'm
zoning,
not.
is to a
I'm not
degree, yes, and we have setbacks so that
Mhm.
we don't private property doesn't impact public space or neighbors' properties. But for you to just come out and say, for the town to say, oh, you have to minimize your impact, and I know you're only building a 10 by 10 shed, so really you can't disturb more than, a 20 by 20 foot area. I mean, where do we get off doing that? They can mow and till the whole damn field and then just put in a 10 by 10 shed. And as long as they don't have dirt running into a public stream or out onto the road or into their neighbor's front yard, what right do we have to tell them otherwise?
well, it's a best management practice.
I don't care.
Well, it's
It's
obvious.
their decision. That's a private person's decision. Yes, there are best management practices that you
Mhm.
should follow, but shoulds and can'ts are very different things. And if you're going to dictate what people are doing with their own private property, man.
Well,
That's
Do
a
we-
bridge too far.
do we want to have stormwater control or not? I mean,
We do because it's stormwater. I don't care if they have any stormwater control, if all of their stormwater stays on their property. The thing we're trying to do here is to protect the public good. And disturbing someone's land doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Well, I would push back on that.
Where it matters is preventing it from coming to the border. The borderline of their property is where their freedoms to do what they want end. Before that, they're free to do what they want.
Within the confines of the zoning regulations, yes.
Yes, they have a 10-foot setback and whatever, but if we're making our zoning regulations that you have to minimize disturbance, which I don't even know how you necessarily define that, but to have that even arbitrarily in there, so somebody could arbitrarily say, "Oh, you didn't minimize the land disturbance in your development of your 10 by 10-foot shed," and that's a zoning violation. That's ridiculous.
okay,
That,
got it.
okay.
Chelsea,
Okay.
well,
Do
where
we
is
lose her?
Loser.
Chelsea? Has gone away.
No,
somewhere.
I'm
John
not
was
away.
next.
I'm not away. I'm just
Okay.
trying to get the mute on the phone. The things don't come up.
Oh, okay.
The options here.
Yes, right.
So I have a couple of comments to what Mark was saying. And sort of near the end, you sort of started equating it to disturbance, but definitely near the beginning, it was more sounding along the lines of equating land clearing to disturbance. Land clearing is not disturbance necessarily. So they're two different things. And I think it's important that as we flow through this to sort of maintain and understand that difference. Because like what you were saying, like we can't stop somebody from, as long as they're meeting forestry regs, like clearing their land. That's true. Like we can't control silviculture practices in zoning. That's not what this is talking about. This is talking about disturbance. So this is talking about someone who clears that acre of land, but in addition to just clearing it and chopping down all the trees, they are stumping it and grading it and like doing things, filling perhaps, cutting. They are disturbing that soil. Like, so there's like essentially like a definition of disturbance, and it's not just like throwing a shovel of dirt over your shoulder. Like it's definitely more significant. I think that my thoughts on this are that my concept of this statement, land disturbance shall be minimized, isn't that you can't disturb land for your project. It's more so like that it's proportional to the project. And I think that it's important that on-site plans and things, like it's clear, as is said above, like what you're going to disturb. What are you doing here? Because nobody can know what the plans to control that should be, especially if we're not requiring folks to get an engineered plan. Like if they're just drafting up these plans themselves, using the best of their ability to look through the low impact development, the state stormwater EPSC for a low risk handbook. Like if a person is drafting that themselves, then limit the disturbance, land disturbance shall be minimized, I think is like, to me, I would perceive that, and we can sort of, if people agree or whatever, we can make this more clear that it's not just like this subjective land disturbance shall be minimized. It's land disturbance should be sort of, as I said, like in contrast and in relation, like what's required for your project. And if you're disturbing more, then that just means you need to get a permit for the more, right? Like you need to include it in your plan, and it needs to be permitted and it needs to be managed. And I don't think necessarily that we stop it. I think that the reason it's important and the reason we care, I guess, speaking to that aspect of it, is, let's say in this example, somebody clears an acre and they put a shed in the middle. Well, we want to know what they're doing, because that it's not just that it stays on your land. If that person has like slopes in a valley that then runs to the next, that part of Far Farms that you were actually talking about, Mark, has like a ravine. So if they were to clear and disturb all the land around that, it would fill the ravine, and then the ravine would overflow, and it would probably affect Huntington Road. And like, so it's just like, I don't necessarily think this is going to be a hard stop on folks, especially if we are careful with the wording.
Right.
But I think it's important, and the whole point of all of this is to make sure that everybody's sort of being responsible. I think we could also consider, sorry, one last thing before I pass it off to, I think, John, then Ian, we're next. We could also consider like that a disturbance of a certain amount just automatically becomes the level with which it goes to DRB review. Like that's, because then there's a hearing, and then folks who know the land neighboring you can sort of get involved and give their thoughts and opinions, and maybe like kind of come to almost like a comprehensive solution. If you've been watching the latest DRB meetings, there's some stuff going on in town where like the neighbors are trying to like figure out, how do we manage this for all of us? Because things aren't great, but we all need to work together. And so if that's another sort of way to functionally do this, is like sending things that way, not necessarily because we think the review will be more thorough or better, but for the public engagement aspect, I guess.
Yep. So you're suggesting a trigger for making a minor into a major, that, maybe the zoning administrator, if that's the minor, looks at it and says, this clearing is not really proportional, then it will have to go to the DRB. So
yeah, maybe. And I think that could totally be a decision, like that could be a decision of the zoning administrator. Like, it doesn't have to be codified. It could be a choice based on different significant things. Like, are there a lot of natural features on this lot? Is it really close to neighbors? Are there things that I think like, maybe this should just go for some public input? It could definitely be something that's discretionary, I think.
Okay, great. John, hi.
Hey, sorry to chime in. I was just sitting on the wall here like a fly, but this seems dangerously subjective. To read it literally, I think the only place you'd be allowed to put a house would be just inside the setback, because anything more and you're disturbing more land than necessary. And likewise, like, is a garage necessary? No, you don't get a garage. Sorry. ZA doesn't want you to have a garage because it's not necessary. Like, it doesn't allow you to site a house on a property for a walkout basement or for solar orientation or for views. Any of those, you're disturbing more land than necessary to create a house.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the intent of it, I think, was that you don't disturb more land than you need for your project. So if your project includes a walkout basement, then you have to disturb that land. But
where on the property?
The goal
right inside the setback or further in? Like, it's
well,
it just seems very subjective for the zoning administrator. Like, do you need a half-mile driveway or a quarter-of-a-mile driveway? I'm worried about having a kind of a cutoff there. Like land disturbance should be minimized. We recommend not having unnecessary clearing.
As opposed to a shall. Right, John?
Correct.
Yeah.
So it could be a guideline instead of a standard. It could be a guideline.
That'd be my suggestion.
I mean, it is described in the low risk handbook as being a basic premise, and I'm sure that you, for whatever project it is you want to do, you don't want to disturb more land than is necessary, but you have to allow for whatever project people want to do. I'd say that is not clear in this, so that's a good thought. Ian.
Hi. I'm probably not going to say anything dramatically different than what's already been said. But just coming off of our town plan exercise, one of the things we discussed was making the development process less onerous. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. This is a whole level of work. I'm not saying I object to it. I'm just saying to be conscious of it. I think that it would be good to phrase this in such a way, or think about it in a way that a project may trigger this type of examination depending on its attributes, which is kind of what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, to flesh it out. Yeah.
Yeah, depending on like you're talking, you know, I don't, you may not be able to do this in the wording, but I mean, taking into consideration the size of the lot, like Mark was talking about, or the slope, how deep you're going in, all those different things. I don't know if there's a way to phrase things in such a way that would make it a little less restrictive, or just so they don't have to go to that step where they have to go in front of the DRB.
Yeah, that definitely is the purpose for this, for sure, Ian, is we don't want them to go to the DRB when it's not necessary. And I would add that what my push is for this from the administration point of view is that we require this of zoning permits already, not the stormwater, but the erosion and sediment controls. We already require it, but that's an internal policy. And I think that a lot of the town plan work that we did to clarify what we need to do and have those standards out there is part of the purpose of what we were saying with making it streamlined. Information is knowledge, knowledge is power, yada yada yada. But you know, we do already require these practices for any land disturbance right now. I'm going to want to see how you're going to keep the soil in place. I want to see how you're going to settle it and have it not be disturbed and moving forward. That's already required. It's just not codified. Stormwater is a totally different issue, totally different. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, trying to get those internal policies that they've been doing for practical reasons into the upfront, the transparent process is one of the things that we want to do. So that's why the site plan that comes with the application, we want to have the features on it that will allow those internal policies that are now going to be required. It will allow them to be looked at in the beginning. So it's a transparency thing, but the triggers point is sort of a different point. Anyway, Chelsea.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I think as I'm sort of listening to everybody and we're talking about this, I think I agree that shall is too strong here. However, I think we're a little bit onto something when Keith or somebody, I don't remember who it was just saying like we don't want people to have to go to the DRB, right? Like we want, and Ian was saying we want zoning and getting this permit to be sort of clear and concise and whatever. I think that rather than saying this shall be minimized and having it be like a hard stop and then putting that burden on the ZA to like need to keep track of what counts as minimized, because you have to apply zoning equally among everyone. So then if somebody gets a hair across their rear end and thinks, well, you didn't treat me like my neighbor, it's a whole thing that would be a problem when there's subjectiveness to it. But I think saying should be minimized, and then we could have, like I said, these sort of thresholds of things that we think like we really want to discourage people from doing, not stop them, Mark, but like discourage them, right? Because these are the things that are like best. And so I think ultimately a way to discourage it is to say like they should be minimized. And if you meet XYZ thresholds, then your project would be forwarded to the DRB. Because then we're not stopping people from doing it. But like, if you want to disturb, cut, stump the whole 9 yards, 2 acres of land all at once, like, you know, you're going to the DRB or whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? Whatever thresholds we put in, because then they don't want to. And so then maybe they'll leave a little bit more buffer. Maybe they'll leave a little bit more vegetation just to, you know, stay on the administrative side of things. So that's okay. That's all.
Yep. And I mean, I think one of the reasons that we're asking for it, this information, is because checking and enforcement is also difficult from an administrative point of view. You know, if they clear or they disturb the land, and I agree that you need to differentiate between clearing and disturbing, but if they disturb the whole 2 acres of land and they say, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put this giant berm around the whole thing. And, you know, it's not obvious how that water is going to absorb into the ground, or, you know, somebody is going to have to look at that and enforce it and, you know, say, have you done it? And that may not happen. This is going to be one of the big issues with the stormwater part, the post-construction, is that this is supposed to be in place for years. You know, I mean, don't put in things that are so complicated that nobody can keep track of them, and it soon falls away. And, you know, so I think the reason that you want to try to work with the land as much as possible is because you want the land to do the work. And then we don't have to be out there making sure that you've made all these berms and wattles and whatever. We don't really have the staff to do that. So anyway, that's just another reason to try to get the land to do the work for you. So anyway, all right. So this discussion probably applies to the other things in this section that is called standards and maybe should be called guidelines. The thing about the time the soil is left disturbed shall be minimized. And by the way, these things aren't just made up. These are from the low risk handbook.
From the handbook. Yep.
Yeah, this is what it says you should be doing. You should be minimizing the time the soil is left disturbed. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Do we want to require that, or do we not want to require that as a standard? Do we want to just say it's a guideline, you have to minimize it? And, you know, obviously minimize is subjective as well, I suppose, just the same as land disturbance shall be minimized. The time the soil is left disturbed shall be minimized. Do we need a threshold there, like you can't leave it for more than 2 weeks, or
yeah, at the state level, it's 14 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
at the state level, it has to be temporarily or finally stabilized within 14 days. It's not that hard to meet that requirement, temporary stabilization, like straw. So I think that's fine. I don't think there's a problem with, like, I don't think that's a huge hurdle, is in my opinion.
It's getting people to do it. That's the hurdle.
Yeah. Yes. Well.
And that's where compliance comes in. And, you know, we don't really have a dedicated compliance arm. I mean, the ZAO does compliance, but I mean, it's just only so many hours in the day.
Right. You can't watch every project every minute of the day. We're trying to get people to do the right thing. You know, yeah. I mean, this is how we do. It's like if you ever looked at the ag standards for water quality, you know, about manure control and all of those things. There's a lot of things that people are being told they have to do to manage water quality. So despite the fact that Mark doesn't like people having to be told what to do, there are a lot of things that people are told to do because there are public consequences.
Yeah.
So, to the extent feasible, the second item in there, soils best suited for infiltration shall be retained, natural areas shall be preserved. I mean, we just want to call these guidelines or what? These are all from the book, from the handbook.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty black and white, to be honest with you. I mean, might
I
want to
mean,
use some of the
ultimately, if you're,
shalls.
yeah, I was gonna say, ultimately, if you're saying they have to meet the handbook anyway, you're already sort of saying these things, you're just pulling it over here.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I kind of see the handbook as the menu,
Yeah.
because it has the practices in it. It's the menu, it's the a la carte, which we want to offer to the applicants. We don't want to dictate what they need to put down, but something needs to go down for soil
yeah.
stabilization.
So up above where it talks about the text, there are two texts that will be used as basic references to provide guidance for best management practices. So that's language that suggests that this is guidance.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
it required or is it guidance? I don't know.
It's required to seek guidance. So,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, from a permitting point of view, that's what it is. I mean, you are required. You have to satisfy to the ZAOs or the DRBs level that, that this is satisfactory.
That you've read this book and that
Right.
you understand that you're supposed to.
And we understand that a layperson is not going to know what a best management practice is, and that's where our office comes in and will, guide them along that pathway, which is what we do right now, regardless.
Ian, your hand is up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think being clear that as guidance would probably be pretty good because just like remembering the uproar about the maps with the town plan and how people felt about
Right.
property rights and
Mhm.
yeah, because I'm assuming this is a change to the zoning regulations, going to have to go to the select board,
Oh, yeah.
public hearing, et cetera, et
Public,
Oh, yeah.
public hearing. Yep.
cetera. Yeah, so
And
you'll definitely be hearing from people if you're
Well, that's what we
phrasing
want.
it. Yeah, well,
but this is why we now need to
absolutely.
do the outreach. We need to talk
Yeah.
to people about why we even want to do this.
Yeah.
What it is.
I think there's just like there can be a tone of the language that people misinterpret as
Yes.
authoritarian, and
Mm.
even though that's not the intent. So
Mm-hmm.
that's all.
Okay. All right.
So engage early and often.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just whatever. I don't have to say
That's
anything.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, we try not to tell people what to do, but zoning is kind of telling people what to do. So, Chelsea.
all right, I think sort of in agreement with Ian along the lines of looking down the pike and public perception of this is we all learned pretty quickly at the town plan hearings that nobody likes the word shall.
Yeah.
So obviously in the places where it's absolutely necessary, I think we should certainly use shall, the whole point is that some things in zoning are shalls, otherwise none of zoning would be enforceable, right? Like if everything was a should, then why do we have regs? But some things I think can be shoulds, like I, for example, this thing about soils best suited for infiltration shall be retained. To be quite frank, I think expecting the general layman of person who may be applying to do something here in the town, they are not going to know
Correct.
how to even tell which of their soils is best suited for infiltration.
Right.
I know where I can find that resource, but did I 18 months ago? No. So like it's, and it took a lot of self-education. So that's not something that I think like people will know, but I think there's benefit to having it in here in either standards or guidelines, whatever you want to call this, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So us including these things as guidelines in a should manner, just as it helps to educate people, right? They're looking through our zoning regs and they're looking at these things. Oh, soil's best suited for infiltration. Oh, what is that? Like, I think, hopefully it will lead to overall better practices because of it being included in here and called out, but not necessarily as a shall, because not everybody's going to understand the difference in soil types. I can give you a sheet though. Most of Richmond is really crappy.
Okay.
We've got a lot of we've got soils. We've got a lot of really poor soils in Richmond.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Richmond. Yeah, sorry. There's a lot of Richmond that has type D soil, which doesn't drain and doesn't infiltrate.
Correct.
Ask me how I know. My whole backyard.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of these things are going to be, since the site plan, the site plan is a shall. You shall make a site plan. That's a requirement. So that's going to be a shall. But some of these things are only going to be applicable to the major ones. So this is for all site plans, the site plan review portion. So, if you have a big development and there's a lot of hills and contours and slopes and all those things, then the soil question will be important. If it's not, and there will be some decisions that the administrative officers will have to make.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the subregs require soil types. I'm pretty sure.
Gosh, I don't remember that.
No, you don't think so? Okay.
I
thought there
don't
was
remember.
something along those lines.
We'll be looking at the subdivision regs anyway when we have to align them. All right. So on the next page, we get down to number 5, development on steep slopes. Here we have a trigger.
Where am I?
Yeah.
Number V. Keep going down.
Keep going. Thank you. Yep. This guy here, 15.
Yeah. V. Development on steep slopes equal to or in excess of 15%, which result, or development which results in steep slopes, such slopes. In other words, if you put in a road or something and you're going to then create a slope, shall be subject to the provisions of, and this is going to be going to the steep slopes, I thought, section. Be talking about that. So,
Right, so I'm seeing that at 15% right now. The trigger is 20. So
I think that has come from other regulations.
That definitely can. It's pretty typical. Most of the other regulations do have it at 15. Some have it at 8.
Right. Williston is 8, but
much.
that's because Williston is flat mostly anyway. So is this a shall? Is this one that is shall? Development on steep slopes shall be subject to the slopes section, which doesn't say this at the moment. We'd have to put something in there. But I mean, do we want to say that this one has to go to the DRB if the slopes, in which case you have to show the slopes on your plan?
Right now, it doesn't go to the DRB. It's not triggered for that. The only thing that it triggers is the requirement for a professionally designed plan. So we've been handling these in-house.
Okay, so could you say that again, Keith? I missed it. If it's a slope of 15%, it triggers the requirement for a professionally designed plan. But that is not necessarily one that has to go to the DRB?
It does not go to the DRB. That doesn't trigger it to go to the DRB for conditional use review. It only requires that the plan be designed by a professional. This is current wording, and it's at 20%, not 15.
Right. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's a shall. It doesn't seem hard to leave it in there that way because it's literally just pointing to an existing section in our zoning.
That says shall.
So unless we like are planning to remove that section or whatever, maybe we're going to make a choice to edit the percentage if we so choose. But essentially, this isn't new. like concepts
Right.
here with the steep slopes. I think it's fine that we point to that section in the zoning, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's already there.
Yeah. Anybody else? What happened to Mark? Has he gone away or has he left?
Well, he's still there. He's hanging out.
Okay.
I'm just doing.
You're just doing.
He went to go clear. He went to go clear all his trees.
Really?
I'm
Biding
just
my
being.
time. You guys,
Allison, you
He's
have
in
your
the,
hand up.
he's in the crock
Um,
pot.
it seems to
Thank
be
you.
harder
Can
to
you
finish.
hear me? Am I coming through?
Yes,
Yes.
you are.
Yeah,
You are.
okay. I was trying to make sure I push all the right buttons.
Yeah.
This is a really tricky business, and I think that I think it's really important to try to address the importance of the Richmond's topographical area. I mean, we are in an area where there's a great deal of variation of the topography. We've got fields, we've got slopes, we've got rocks, and we have in particular the areas where the land is steeper. Wherever it's steeper, whatever you do has more effect on your neighbors than where it's flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that I'm not. I don't know about 15%, but I think that's probably okay, especially if it's being used by the state and used in other places. But I do think that we need to be very conscious of, and this just applies to everybody, of what you do and what you build, and you know, whatever driveway you have or whatever you dig up or whatever actually affects your neighbor because of the topography of the land in general. So I don't know that's a very helpful remark, but I don't have a problem with the idea that we're trying to put in some kind of standards here that would seem reasonable, and I think this is a typically difficult thing to do. So I think I don't know. Have you compared some of these requirements with what some of the other towns are doing?
Yes.
Yes, and these, I think, a lot of these, they're taken from the handbook, the low risk handbook, and also they're in the Huntington statute.
Oh, okay, good.
So, you
Yeah.
know, other
All right.
people are thinking these are important.
Yeah.
I
That-
like the way some of these were worded in the Huntington statute, and they're a hilly place too. I mean, Allison, I think it's a very good public relations point to think about the fact that the neighbors are affected by what you do on your property.
Yes.
This is why it's not okay to just do anything on your property. if
Right.
The
Right.
neighbors the neighbors can be affected. So I think that's a good way to think about it. Chelsea.
So this is sort of a question for you all because I don't know this answer. I mean, obviously I know our town plan has maps in it. Been there, done that. We have our zoning district map. Keith, is there such thing as like other zoning maps? So when Allison was talking about Richmond and the topography and this, and I was saying, right, like it'd be hard for people to know, like, oh, I have these soil types and all this stuff. Then it suddenly hit me, like, could we have, I don't know if it's like, it's not districts, but almost like a guidance or, so like if we have this map, right, of like almost like stormwater districts, please, this is very spitball, please bear with me. Like, if you're in this section of Richmond, you need to consider that you're likely on slopes over X amount and your soils might be this. And like, it's almost like a guidance, like not zoning districts, but like, is that such a thing? Like, do zoning offices have like, hey, here's this guidance map. Let's pull out the stormwater district map and look at where you might land and what that might mean for you as like not necessarily has to be, but like almost like a tool for the office, but also for our town, for our applicants.
Yeah, and the term are overlay districts. So the answer is yes, yes. In mature districts or mature regulations, they have those. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
This might be a little beyond our ability, I mean, our scope of work at the moment, but
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question while it was on my mind. Thank you.
yeah, okay.
Spitballing is totally welcome.
Yes. So I just wanted to say that I have a copy of the Huntington regulations and what they say in their regulations. All of these items are listed one way or another in their regulations. All development is subject to the following pre-development and construction site standards to ensure that all sources of soil erosion and sediment are adequately controlled and that existing site features that naturally aid in stormwater management are protected to the maximum extent practical. And it has all of these, and they're all in shalls, just by the way, kind of FYI. They feel that that's okay to require them. Anyway, so we are addressing slopes to a certain extent. And by the way, the requirements for what is actually on the site plan are in the site plan section. Okay. So this is just talking about what we're aiming for with your planning. This is what you're aiming for, these kinds of things. Maybe they're guidelines, maybe they're shoulds, whatever. But this is what we're aiming for. What you actually have to show, like you have to show the slopes on your site plan, that is listed in the requirements for creating a site plan. I don't know if that's too confusing or not, but
We'll work through that though. I mean, that's all part of the flow that we got to work
on. The next one, VI, mature trees intended to be retained shall be indicated on the plan for construction, because if you are using mature trees as part of your absorption strategy, you have to protect them during construction. So you need to back up one step and put them on the plan. These are trees that we are going to retain and we are going to protect during construction. So it doesn't say you have to retain them. It just says if you're retaining them and you're using them as your strategy, then you need to show them on the plan. Oh, natural areas shall be preserved when feasible. I mean, this is just trying to keep the state a better, for the public good, keep the state a better looking place. It doesn't say you can't destroy any natural areas, but if it's feasible, keep the areas. This is advice that we're putting out there. It's got a shall in there. Maybe it should be a should. Maybe it shall be a should, or it should be a should. Anyway, whatever. And you have to identify those fragile areas, like the wetlands. If you have wetlands, you need to identify them on your site plan so that we can talk about how you can preserve them. So anyway, all of these items are kind of like that: open space, forested lands. I don't know. I mean to ask the Planning Commission in Huntington, who has all these things also in their plan, if they had a lot of pushback on the fact that they said you shall do this. I don't know if they did or not, but I will ask them. All right, anybody want to say anything about the rest of those items? VII, VIII. The shall is the question for all of them.
I think my only thought overall is that the things in this section, I think I just have to chew on it a bit more, because some of them, I just wrote a note, like VI, VII, and VIII, all the I's, feel less like standards for stormwater and more just like, do we want those to be site plan standards for everything? You know, especially if we're planning to pull stormwater into disturbance as little as 200 square feet, if that's where it goes. I don't know. Not, you know, it just seems less like a standard for here and more like something for site plan stuff. But again, I don't pretend to be an expert on how all this stuff is sorted and organized.
Yeah, okay. But feels a little weird. Okay, so if you want, what we could do, since we're talking about the site plan, is we could look at the site plan section and see what we're saying you're required to put on the site plan. That might be helpful. It's not, we won't take up the whole of this section, but if you go down to the site plan section 5.5.4, the requirements for the site plan, this is designed to encompass these features that we've just been talking about. And these are the things that you shall include on you, either minor or major. Remember, minor is the one that's going to the zoning administrator, major would go to the DRB.
Yeah.
You have to put your name, of course, and the parcel owner. The extent of the land disturbance and clearing limits. So, you know, this is addressing the question of how much land are you going to clear. It just says you have to show it on the plan. And Keith, you thought it was important that you had the clearing limits, especially, right? So that
Well, I do from a strictly stormwater point of view, for sure.
from the stormwater controlling point of view, we have to see where you plan to clear. It doesn't say where you can or can't clear, it just says where you are planning to clear. The locations and dimensions of the structures and all proposed impervious surfaces. So this you're going to need for the post-construction phase. We're going to need to see where you're putting the impervious surface. And this kind of addresses like Ian's question from last time about it might be different if you're putting it right next to your neighbor or if you're putting it, you know, on the other side of the slightly less than 1 acre parcel, for instance. So where is the impervious surface and what is the proportion of impervious surface to pervious surface? So if you're planning to put a massive parking lot, then that is going to, then we're going to have to think about what your stormwater plan is going to be for having all of that impervious surface. So we want to put the impervious surfaces on there. Show the setbacks from the adjoining property lines and roads. And then you have to put the information that you find from the parcel deed, like what the easements are and where the boundaries are, and also the dig safe review, including the location of any known utility lines, easements, or deed restrictions. Those are all things that you will need to put on your plan. And then the next items, I have said the next 5 items can be found through the Permit Navigator and by examining information from ANR. Now, if we had that whole mapping system like Chelsea was talking about, you would be able to get that right in-house. You know, if we knew what all the soils were and what all the, where all the wetlands were and all of those things. But since we don't really have that, maybe you have to get that from ANR, that information from their maps. So anyway, so these next few things would come from that. And the reason that we want those things is because it's going to tell us what kind of controls are going to be required later and so forth. So, John.
Maybe a practical consideration, and this drives me nuts about the zoning application as well. You require a dig safe review before applying for a permit, a dig safe permit is active for 30 days. So the applicant needs to get dig safe out there, wait a 15-day wait period. They've got 12 days to dig, and then they need to give dig safe 72 hours before they can start digging, before they can, in order to renew the permit. So it's a really, really narrow window. I feel like it might be better said that these applicants need to show the location of any known utility lines and contact DigSafe before digging.
I think that's the intent, John, to be honest with you, because all we're looking for is a number.
But you can't get a number unless you call in.
Right. So that we would want to know that that is in process.
Right. So if it's in
day.
Right, that triggers the 30 days, right? Which means I've got to call them. I've got 15 days to wait after I get the town permit. That's assuming like it's a administrative permit and I can dig immediately. But if I'm not ready to dig, I've got to call DigSafe again. Or if the digging isn't complete within 12 days.
Well, you can't dig until the permit is released. So I don't see the conflict there.
Well, so what he's saying, I think, Keith, is that what we should say here is that you show the known utilities,
Okay.
but you only need the dig safe permit before digging, before construction commences. And,
Okay.
It's like those other things that we're not going to require. Like, if you need a state permit, you need it not when you apply, but you need to have it before you're digging, not before the CO, because that's ridiculous to wait till get the CO for that permit. You need it before you commence digging, but this could be like that. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay.
I hear you, John.
So we can change that to before digging.
Yeah, we've had some issues with DigSafe also. I know some developers, don't want to use them because of that time frame.
They're definitely getting taxed with all the fiber optic stuff.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to get a hold of them, and to require them to come out to a site twice for the same residential permit is.
Well, we want to avoid that. We definitely want to avoid them coming out twice, no doubt. I know you're 100% right with all the wireless. I mean, with all the stuff that's going on, all the trenching that's going on in the town. I think we had 42 right-of-way permits last year, something crazy like that. So, anyway, I digress. Whoops.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the natural resource portions that we want you to show on your site plan. Yeah, right here, those. We've had some discussion about like what are significant natural features. Do we need contours always? Is this going to be possible for individual applicants to do these things? On a bigger project, obviously, the state will be involved, although they're not really involved in the stormwater prevention portion of it. So
we do walk applicants through the process, and many times we actually complete the process for them.
Okay.
And that's a relatively new standard that Dante has brought into the office.
And does he look at the maps? Does he go and look at the A&R Atlas and stuff? And
He does.
yeah. So do we think that these are things, to me, these seem like things that are important to have on the plan
Yes.
because of what we're going to be doing down the line?
Yeah, and most of these are on, well, not most of them, but surface water streams. That is a requirement that's on the permit right now. But contours not necessarily. Forests and natural areas aren't. Infrastructure's not.
Right. And then the location of known adjoining stormwater infrastructure and natural drainage ways, that we're going to talk about that a little bit with the highway department's stormwater system management, which the mapping needs updated, but Keith, and I think there's probably going to have to be a grant obtained for that. It's kind of rudimentary right now. It's like a sketch, but anyway. So any comments about that? So these are the things that you're actually required to put on your site plan. And the idea is you use those guidelines to understand what it is that you're committed, you know, but this is just the basic facts that you're putting down about what you're going to do, and what your plans are going to be. Chelsea, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I figured I'd leave myself unmuted and just be quiet. So I don't have to.
You're kind of breaking up every once in a while.
Here, maybe if I get closer.
Yeah.
That'll just make it better, right? If I
That's good.
put my
Yeah,
face.
much better.
All right. So location, it says 5 items can be found through the Permit Navigator. These are actually not found through the Permit Navigator. So the Permit Navigator is like a questionnaire that you complete based on your personal knowledge. And then it spits out recommendations of what state permits you need. What this is actually referring to is the A&R Atlas.
Uh-huh.
So it's not Permit Navigator is so that you yourself can take your personal knowledge of your own parcel and tell the state, yeah, I have wet spots where my feet sink in. And then it'll say like, hey, maybe you should contact wetlands, things like that.
Correct.
So yeah, these are definitely A&R Atlas things. And I think it's definitely, so I would just say they can be found by utilizing the A&R Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say you should also versus saying and in-person examination, my wording preference would be something along the lines of like, the next 5 items should be included if they are found on the Permit Navigator or known by the applicant, maybe something like that. Because there's not Permit Navigator, good grief, found on the A&R Atlas.
Yeah.
Or known by the applicant, because there's some things that are not on the atlas that very well will be known by the applicant.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that is what the wetlands people say about the Class 3 wetlands is that, you know, they say, well, we're not regulating it. And in our ordinance, we are not regulating Class 3 wetlands. We had that long discussion when we talked about the wetlands section that we couldn't really regulate them if they're not mapped in any way. And the wetlands people say there are lots of Class 3 wetlands. We're trying to preserve wetlands because they serve an important ecological function. Yeah. So if you know about it or your neighbors know about a wetland on the property, you should mention it. You know, delineation. It's just
there's unmapped Class 2 wetlands in our town.
We have unmapped Class 2 wetlands.
Oh, totally.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's the Class 3 wetlands. So, you know, it's up to people to do the right thing. That's all. What else can you say? I mean,
my point is simply that not to sort of like give people a scapegoat of like, well, it wasn't on the
we lost you.
Right. Put it on the plans because you didn't tell me I had to. Just go. It's not that like if it's not on the atlas, I'm free and clear. Like it's a get out of jail free card. Just to also include you shall also include things you know in your head.
Right. Well,
or that you see with your eyes.
Yeah, that was the point of as well as an in-person examination. But you know, your language might work better, preferably so. Or known by the applicant. So, okay. So any other comments about the site plan? These are the actual requirements for the site plan.
For both of them. For both the minor and the major.
For both the minor and the major. So the major also has some additional ones. It shall be prepared, we've already stated up above in the definition of a major site plan, which we haven't, quite pointed out, but The definition of a major site plan includes the fact that it is prepared by a professional.
Mhm.
And it also will have these other things that have to be on it.
Mhm.
And some of these are taken from our current regulations. For instance, the name and addresses of all abutters, including those across contiguous roads, that is taken from our current requirement under conditional use review. Most major site plan reviews are going to be done by the DRB as a conditional use, a PUD, or a subdivision. So then you need it to be, so we want it to be more accurate than just sort of accurate, which the minor one can be sort of accurate. The documented easements, rights of way, utility lines, surveyed boundaries, etc. So this is just making it the professional part of it. The land use areas, this is your impervious surfaces, driveways, curb cuts, parking and loading, traffic, pedestrian walkways or trails, outside storage display areas, outside waste storage, sewage, blah, 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 outdoor lighting. So we want all of those things on the majors. Grading, landscaping, screening, existing and proposed vegetation, stormwater management features that are proposed, mapped high priority natural areas, and any other information that the administrators want for a full assessment of the project site. This is our leaving our window open. Chelsea.
Sorry, so just to make sure I'm clear, so the minor site plan, this is what would be for any development. How is this, I guess, in looking at it, is it a whole lot different, Keith, than like what people have to include with their permit application right now? Like the thing on the second page that says
Right.
provide a drawing and it can be handwritten or not. And
Yeah.
I feel like this is that. Is it a whole lot different?
I mean, it certainly is spelled out in the site plan review requirements, but no, it's not awfully different.
So I guess, so my thought in asking that is like, if what we're talking about right now is trying to manage stormwater and create regs for stormwater, one would think we would want at least some intent on the plans of like, what are you doing for stormwater? I'm not saying they have to be an EPSC plan by an engineer, but like, if we're going to go to the extent where instead of just having it be the application and like a drawing on the application, we're going to say, hey, follow these site plans. And then somebody goes through the trouble to come over to the site plan requirements and they read this and it's like, well, I mean, that's pretty much what I had to do before anyway. Maybe it's a little more clear and mapped out. But is there anything stopping us from like saying planned like erosion prevention measures? Like, because I guess my point here, what I'm getting at is like, if we're having this stormwater section, how is your office or Dante going to enforce anything if the intent of those things were never on the plans? Because then if you go around and you say, hey, you're not managing your stormwater, they'd say like, too bad, I didn't put that on my plans. You knew I wasn't going to do it. Tough luck.
Yeah.
Like, so I think it's fine that it's just like drawn and they're sort of initial plans like, hey, I'm going to put silt fence here around my project. But like in my mind, if we're putting this here in the site plans and trying to make it really clear, shouldn't we
Put that
say that
also, rather
Yes,
than
no?
just referencing the stormwater section? I mean, that was a, sort of an organizational question, is whether the site plan should then reference the stormwater section with its standards, or whether you could say exactly how you're going to do it on your site plan. So I hear
or
you.
maybe the site plan says, and whatever you choose to implement from the stormwater section. Like, I don't know, because maybe they choose different things from the low risk handbook but something
Right.
like
I mean,
some intent to, as you say, do the right thing. I imagine should be like on those plans from the get-go.
And they would be on the plans from the get-go. They are now. I'm not quite following your train of thought, but I mean, I think I understand what you're saying.
I think,
I'm just
I
trying to
think,
figure the administration of this. This is what it's all about for me.
yeah, she's saying that it's not spelled out enough on the site plan exactly what your choices what choices you have made.
Yeah, for example, it says extent of land disturbance and clearing limits, but then like maybe the next item is proposed stormwater facility, like things.
Yeah, what practices are you utilizing?
Yeah, proposed erosion and
Yep.
like erosion and sedimentation
Sure.
practices. Like at least something on there to show they're thinking of it, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole
Well, would
point
that-
is get people to.
Yeah, and we do require that, especially not for stormwater, as you know, but for erosion and sedimentation, we do require those practices be placed on the plan now. And before, and those practices need to be installed before the stakeout. We don't even have stakeout inspections codified, but that is an internal policy also. So we would have, before you do any land clearance, you obviously need to put erosion and sediment control practices in place. I mean, to me, that's ENS 101, but it might not be, intrinsic in somebody's thinking when they're building a single family dwelling by themselves. So yeah, it's a balance for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, some of those things are in the stormwater section required, like under the construction portion, which is erosion and sedimentation. The requirements are that you physically mark the limits of construction and the proposed area of land disturbance. So you physically mark it out. So that's the stakeout piece, I guess.
Yes.
And these are taken from the low risk handbook. You create the stabilized construction access, and maybe, but those things, I guess, all of those things could be indicated on the site plan. Where are you going to put the construction access?
Right.
Do we want all of those things that are required for the erosion portion? Do we want them spelled out in the beginning on the site plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's my vote.
I agree.
Okay, so we can spell out a lot more things than on the site plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Then just-
conversely, the permit, the permit requirements too, but that's something we do internally.
Yeah.
What permit? What are you talking about?
Well, we're gonna have to put this language on the permits themselves.
Right,
zoning
on the permits,
That's
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so, and all of these things are going to have to be listed on the permit that, when you apply, this
Or-
is what,
You must refer to this in to section 8.2. We use that a lot today, Virginia, but you
Right.
need to refer to 5.5 for this. Yeah. So all that language needs to be sussed out.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we'll-
I think what you're saying, Virginia, is exactly what I was getting at. I just circled back to the requirement section in the construction standards, and that's what I was talking about. Like, if we're going to require these things, they should in some way show them. And for a minor, right? Like for a minor one, we're not like it says, I think somewhere I read, I don't have it right in front of me. Like it can be approximate, or like it can be hand drawn, right? Like
right,
we're not holding them to it by the penny or inch, but like it should be on there. Otherwise, how the heck is our zoning office going to hold anybody to anything or enforce anything?
Right.
right. Yeah, so the original way I had it set up was that the site plan was just indicating like what is, everything about the site that is. And then you have to refer to the stormwater section to carry out the things that it says. But I see that there could be a hole there, so we'll see if we can figure out a way to make sure that those things from the stormwater section get into the site plan. Yeah. Allison, you were going to say something.
Well, yes, first of all, I want to thank you, Virginia, and Keith and everybody that has been working on this. This is a big job to come up with all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the I know, but you know what? I feel I love Richmond. I grew up in Montpelier, and I loved Montpelier. I grew up on the edge of the big pasture out in the back there, Sabin's pasture. Sabin, that was in my family, and I used to just love. And in Montpelier, I went out my front door and I was in the city, and I went out the back door and I was in the country. And I have a similar situation here in Richmond, but the whole town is like that of Richmond. You and I think that we're getting gradually more and more surrounded by people infringing upon our uniqueness from both ends. And I don't think that we should be afraid to be a little bit more demanding about these permits that we're asking for and whatnot. I think we need to protect ourselves from invasions from both sides. And I'm making it sound like a war, and that's not what I intend. But I just think that I think Richmond is very, very special. And we have such a variety of landscapes and whatnot. And if we're not careful, they're going to get invaded from around us. And I know I sound like a person that has a worried attitude, but I am concerned. I'm concerned. I don't know if anybody's been to Waterbury lately. But I went up to my son and I went up to Waterbury some few weeks ago. It was during the ski season. It takes an hour to go from Waterbury to Stowe.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
That time of year? Oh, yeah.
What?
I said that time of year, absolutely.
Yeah, it does. And yet, you know, it's wonderful that we have all these people visiting Stowe and contributing to our economy and all that. But really, I think we want to protect Richmond from falling prey to too much ambiguity in what you can and cannot do. And so, Virginia, I compliment you and those of you who have, you know, come up with this. I'm sitting here saying all this, and I didn't help you write this, so I have no right to complain.
Oh, well.
I'm just saying, don't be afraid to be clear of what we can do and what we can't do, because where there is not clarity, there could well be very big disappointments.
Okay.
We do have to find that balance. That's what it's all about.
It is. It is. And I think we not only have to find that balance, but we have to realize that in the geographical location where we actually are, we are a balance.
Yeah, good point. Good points. You have a landscape degree, don't you? Some kind of a landscaping degree. You have a master's degree in landscaping, I think?
I do. I have a master's degree in natural resources planning.
Okay.
And my specialty was landscape design. And I got this degree quite a number of years ago when it was very uncommon for a woman to be it was when UVM just introduced this as a new program. It was very uncommon for a woman to be even involved in it. And I mean, I had issues like I had to put the cabinet that carried the transit equipment and all that. I had to stand on that to get up high enough to look through the telescope or look through, to even see what the heck was going on. And I can remember a professor who was really nasty to me about that. And I said, well, then you put it down where I can see it. But I mean, I had little gender issues of that nature, being a first woman in that kind of thing. And
well, so we'll look forward to some of your comments as we go forward. So your landscaping comments.
Yeah, but
good.
I do have a master's degree in environmental planning, with landscaping was my was my specialty.
Great. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're getting close to our wrapping up time. So Keith and I will work on somehow making it all a little more clear, maybe making sure that the guidelines are guidelines, but the shalls for the things that we actually are going to require. We do want to give people some choices to the way they meet the standards. So there's that consideration. Chelsea, your hand is up.
Oh, it wasn't intended to interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure to ask. Sorry, I'm not done reading and working, Virginia. In the section about pre-construction standards,
Yeah.
can either you or Keith speak? Maybe this is just copied from like Huntington's regs.
Yeah.
Item 4.
Yes. The soil compaction.
What is that about? Say again.
Well, I'm saying, where are we?
We're
Oh.
number 4 or IV, right? You're
Yeah,
looking at IV.
pre-construction IV.
Pre-construction.
There shall be no soil compaction.
Down under the standards, what we've called standards that might be guidelines.
I'm not following.
Okay, no, so we're in the 6, we're back 6 and 16, 6.16.
Yeah, I jumped back out of the.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Okay,
So-
yep. So go down to IV.
This one here.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then 4.
Well, I
I
think
figured.
that's out of the
I figured
book.
well, yeah, I was
think
looking.
it means you're not supposed to be like driving the trucks around or something and compacting the soil so that it doesn't absorb any water. Let's see. It did come, I believe, out of the Huntington regulation.
Yeah, I would
but-
imagine that has to deal with a what do they call them? The steamrollers that compact the soils. Where you would do that, on your site. If you're building a driveway, you would compact the soils or something along those lines. I'm not sure exactly where that's coming from, so I'm kind of.
Yeah, I guess the reason I bring it up is because I figured we're here together and you and Virginia are going to go work on this or whatnot.
Right.
And
We'll
might as well
find
bring
out.
up something. So I don't think that's necessary, I guess, is my shout out to you
Right.
guys as you're looking through this.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's no reason for us to like restrict soil compaction. If anything, some amount of soil compaction is going to help with erosion prevention. It's going to keep those soils from washing away. And a lot of stuff in the low risk handbook actually does involve them driving over soil with like a machinery.
Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to
Before.
Yeah, you go perpendicular to the slope. Yep, there's all that.
Yeah, like before seeding it and all
Yep.
that stuff. So
Exactly.
I think it just it jumped out to me as really weird. I didn't recognize it from any standards I know. So I thought I'd point that out.
Oh, yes, I see it here in the Huntington regs.
So you want to? I think this is saying that you have the landscape. Nah, never mind. I have no idea what this is saying. Never mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can find out about that, if there's
Yeah.
any.
We'll flag that.
Flag it. All right.
Thanks.
All right. So, any other comments for right now? I think we're running out of time, but it's a good discussion. Trying to walk the line between telling people what to do and not telling people what to do.
Well, I just have one comment.
Yes.
Thank you, Virginia, for all your hard work on this.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
Virginia.
And the
welcome.
rest of you, and Keith, all of you who worked on this, that this is a very, it's very important and it's very tricky. And finding the right combination between being specific and very picayune about certain things and just being too vague to where where people can sneak things through.
Right.
That's a very big language challenge, and I think you've done really well there.
Well, thank you. And, this is why we want everybody to be making their comments, because these are
Yeah.
good comments that are going to refine it
Yes.
and, make it
But
better from,
don't be
someone who-
afraid to take a stand, is what I'm saying.
right.
Because I think because of our geographic location in
Right.
between the city of Burlington
Yeah.
and the city of Montpelier, and then Waterbury, who is kind of sunk these days. I don't know if you know
Right.
about Waterbury, but
Yeah.
we are in a very vulnerable situation, or we're in a vulnerable location. That's what I want to say.
There's
Okay.
something about a river runs through us or something.
Yep. We got the river. Chelsea, yep.
Sorry, I'm still over here
Yes.
working. So section Keith 6.16.5 A VII, provide temporary and final. I think it should read or final.
Okay, where 6.16.5 you're talking about?
Yep. Section A,
A,
item
requirements, yep.
7, VII 7.
Okay. Provide temporary and final soil stabilization within 14 days of initial disturbance.
I think it should say temporary or final.
Okay.
It's going to
Because
depend on what part of the project, where you are on the project. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, some things are just going to be temporarily stabilized until the
Yep.
project's finished. So
Yep. Yeah, stockpiles. So,
Is
Yeah.
the 14 days, is that a good number for final? Does that,
yeah, grass should grow. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
Chelsea.
it's essentially temporary or final. It just means that, like, if you're done with that area, you can go ahead and stabilize it for final stabilization. If
Yeah,
you're not done with
permanent.
the area, it's temporarily stabilized until you're done with your project, and then it's stabilized finally.
So the word should
It's
be
not
changed to
it's
or.
not implying that
Okay.
any section of your project has to be finally stabilized in 14
so
days.
that works with an or, okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of those other items came from the low risk handbook. Some of them seemed
Yeah.
to be important, like posting the notice of authorization. That wasn't in the handbook, but that you should be doing, right? Prominently.
Is that just talking about the permit notice?
Yeah, number 9, post a notice of authorization prominently. That's the
That's a
permit.
Z card. I would imagine.
Yeah, we're just talking about the zoning permit. Yeah.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah, and big news is we did purchase, or I'm going to purchase a laminator tomorrow. It's big news in the zoning office.
Ooh, nice.
So yeah, that's huge. I got the approval for that.
I've had
So-
one. They're only like
Just like-
$20. You needed to get approval for that?
$66, my friend. I want a
Oh.
12.9-inch one. I don't want a 9-inch one. I want a larger one. But
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I think we have the budget for that.
it's the
66.
Cadillac. It's the Cadillac.
Still $60. Yeah. Mine's the 9.5 by 11 version. I've had it for forever. It's great.
Yeah. I'm
All
sorry
right,
about
so let's wrap this up. Any other people, if you read through these standards and you have something that you want to say, then email Keith and me, and we'll take it in that way, because it's a lot to discuss in these meetings. So, but we'll try to reorganize it a little bit and
I have
make
a
some
question for
changes.
Keith.
Yep. Go.
Did you have a grandchild on the way?
Yeah, she was born on the 8th, and 7 pounds 10 ounces. Solara Vega is her name.
All right.
And,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
She's gorgeous.
And
again,
she's ultra cute.
beautiful, the most beautiful baby in the world. I really feel sorry for all the other babies before and after this kid. This standard is just way too freaking high. It just is.
All right. This is what we expect from grandparents to hear, by the way.
Oh, wait till you see the picture. You'll agree.
Uh-huh.
Did you want to talk about having hybrid meetings? Did you want to get to
Yes.
that tonight? I'm sorry.
Yep. We've got a couple of minutes. Do we want to plan for a hybrid meeting or an all in-person meeting? Do we want to plan for it, or are we not ready yet to plan for it?
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea, if you're going to be there for every PC meeting, I like to set you up with a laptop at least. You know, you can use my laptop from the office. I don't care. So we can make that a little easier for you.
I have a laptop here. Here I'm
Oh,
I've
I
got a
see.
laptop.
Okay.
I've got my paper. I've got my chicken salad and chips. It's actually like a party over here. Everyone is welcome.
You're awesome.
It's actually going to be a potluck. I'll bring my crock pot next time.
I'll bring ribs.
Really.
Well,
So, yeah,
I
no.
could go to the
But
town
certainly
center
it's-
anytime. So
Yeah, I
it
think
could be
it's
hybrid.
more than, I think if several of us are here, we would want to get that owl eyeball thing if we're in the small room, because I think multiple people being logged into Zoom in the same room would cause echoing issues.
Yes, it would. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
All right.
I think
So,
aside from that,
yeah.
we're good.
And maybe this phase of the discussion, when it's so up in the air, isn't the best time to all get together. I mean, what is a time when it would be good to have us all together? When we have something that we're more agreeing on, all of us, in terms of a document, would that be a useful time? Or anytime? I mean, I'm fine with anything. Whatever people want to do. Mark, do you want to come down to meetings, or Ian, do you want to, what about Cooper? I mean, Cooper would have to come. So not the grandchild, but Cooper at least.
Cooper's
could
not
come.
going anywhere.
Um,
I'm very flexible. I can pretty much do any time.
Yeah, Virginia, I think it's been harder in the winter. Now that we're getting into
Yeah.
the warmer season, it'll be easier for people to get together, I think.
true.
And I'd be there initially, and then depending on the workload, obviously I can run the meeting remotely if need be. But we can figure it. I'm not too overly concerned about it. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think these remote, I think these meetings are great. I love being able to sit in my house and
Mhm.
turn on the computer and talk with all of you. I mean, I think it's a good solution, but there is something that is special about personal presence with each other
Mhm.
that we shouldn't let go of forever.
Right. All right.
Well, I think definitely Virginia, I guess the only thing that I am steadfast on, because I'll just come here whenever, whether anybody wants to come party with me or not. But once we are hoping for public engagement and public feedback and things like that, and
Yeah.
once we have something we feel like, okay, this is getting a lot more well-rounded and we're feeling more like it's on the road to shine. I feel like we need to have some in-person meetings for sure at that point. Otherwise, I think the feedback is going to be, I never had the opportunity to engage because I don't, maybe people who don't use their computer don't want to use their computer.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we definitely just keep that in the back of our minds, whether or not folks want to do it sooner than that point. I think that point, it is important in my mind.
I think a good point.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe let's not plan for the next meeting to be necessarily in person. The April meetings. And we'll hash out a few more of these things, get more towards the end of the document, and then maybe look towards May for trying to get everybody together. Does that work for people?
That works for me.
Okay. Any other input?
I follow your lead.
Okay. All right. So I think we're done. We'll go on working on this. I assume everybody is happy just to continue working on stormwater while we have the momentum going for it. And what?
That's adorable.
My dog,
Oh, you shared a file?
the flying
Yeah.
squirrel.
It's crazy.
It's like it's
Yeah, I was just gonna say he looks like a bat a little bit.
He's a flying squirrel.
Oh, where am I? Oh, there he is.
adorable, dude.
Oh my god.
Hey, I want my dog. Where's my dog?
Definitely in competition with the grandchild for adorableness.
I couldn't resist. Sorry. I had him at
All
the
right.
dog park a couple days ago, and he was just flying or
Oh, that's awesome.
crazy.
He was having fun. That's
Yeah.
very cute. All right. So any other
Thank-
last minute comments? If not, we can have a motion to adjourn. We'll go on working on this. We'll have more at the next meeting. And it's good. I think these conversations are good. And I really have to talk to the people in Huntington and find out how they passed all of
They
this,
fared, yeah.
Yeah.
all those shalls and whether people are actually doing it. And
Well, that's
Yeah.
another story. It is Huntington after all.
I don't know, they have opinions down there. So, all right. Ian is
Right.
making a motion to adjourn, I think.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. And
Okay.
Allison is seconding it. Yes.
All right.
If no one objects, which I don't see anyone objecting, we will stand adjourn. And the time is 9:05. So
you all.
great, good conversation. Just read this stuff and, all of these things.
Shoot
will
me
go
comments,
into the-
please.
Yeah, shoot your comments.
Have
So
a good night.
great.
Good night, everyone.
Yep,
Don't-
good
don't,
night.
Take care
Good
of my
night, everybody.
Happy spring. It's coming.
coming. Yep, eventually. Au revoir.
Right.